origins of the rivalry between United and Liverpool date back to the 19th century, in the heart of the Industrial Revolution. During this time, Manchester was known as Cottonopolis and the world's first industrial city, a powerhouse of cotton textiles and a home for British manufacturing. Meanwhile, down the road, Liverpool, with its booming docks, had become one of the world's most important ports, serving as a thoroughfare of imports and exports for the British Empire. For decades, both cities prospered, collaborating more than competing. Manchester depended on Liverpool's port to export its goods, and in return, Liverpool's merchants thrived on Manchester's booming industry. However, by the mid-1800s, tensions in the northwest began to simmer until the animosity between the two cities boiled over in 1894, when the Manchester Ship Canal officially opened for business. This allowed local merchants to bypass Liverpool altogether, transporting goods to and fro directly from Manchester and avoiding the high tariffs imposed by merchants on the Mersey. Indeed, Liverpool saw this as a direct threat to their economic supremacy, and local politicians initially opposed plans for another ship canal to muscle in on their turf, angering those who resided in Manchester. Quickly, a fierce rivalry developed between the two cities, and it's a rivalry built on trade, industry, and pride. As the cities clashed, a new battleground was emerging: football. Manchester United and Liverpool FC, two names that would eventually come to define English football, had humble beginnings though, far removed from the global powerhouses they are today. Manchester United, originally founded as Newton Heath in 1878, was a working-class club born from the local railway workers. Not long after Newton Heath were formed, Liverpool FC was founded by John Houlding, the owner of Anfield, in 1892, after disputes over rent saw Everton abandon the ground and take up residence across Stanley Park at Goodison Park. While the cities competed on an economic level, their football teams were developing alongside these growing tensions. Of course, football has always served as a microcosm of society itself, and therefore it's no surprise that these regional hostilities soon spilled over to the pitch. Indeed, both clubs quickly established themselves within the English Football League, but the early years were marked by local pride rather than national dominance. However, the seeds of a fierce rivalry had already been planted in 1894, the same year as the Manchester Ship Canal opened, as Liverpool beat Newton Heath in a playoff match, relegating the Manchester outfit to the second tier and taking their place in the First Division. The turn of the century would see Liverpool win the league in 1901 and repeat this feat in 1906. Across the northwest, financial difficulties pushed Newton Heath to the brink of existence until local brewer John Henry Davies invested in the club in 1902 and rebranded it as Manchester United. As Liverpool began to slide into mid-table, United became a rising force in English football, winning the league title and Charity Shield in both 1908 and 1911, alongside the FA Cup in 1909. Despite success in the early part of the 20th century and another 2 Liverpool League titles in the early 1920s, it wasn't until after the Second World War that Manchester United and Liverpool re-emerged as dominant forces again in English football. United, under former Liverpool captain Matt Busby, built a team of young talents that would go on to achieve great things, winning the FA Cup, followed by 3 league titles and Charity Shields alike. The legendary Busby Babes epitomised the new post-war optimism, but tragedy struck with the Munich air disaster in 1958. Meanwhile, Liverpool had their own resurgence under manager Bill Shankly. Appointed in 1959, Shankly fast transformed Liverpool into a footballing powerhouse, with players like Roger Hunt, Ian St John, and the Colossus captain Ron Yates powering the team to domestic successes in the 60s, following their promotion back to the First Division in 1962. The city itself was in the midst of a cultural revolution, with the Beatles leading the Merseybeat phenomenon, putting Liverpool on the map as a hotbed of musical talent. Over in Manchester, Busby had begun to rebuild his team in the 60s, and, with the help of stars like George Best, Bobby Charlton, and Dennis Law, Manchester United won the FA Cup, 2 league titles, and then became the first English club to win the European Cup in 1968. But by the time the 1970s rolled around, the pendulum had swung back towards Merseyside, with Liverpool truly the dominant force in English football, while in contrast, United would endure a spell of indifference following Busby's retirement. Liverpool would go on to enjoy 20 years of sustained success between 1972 and 1992 under the mentorship of Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan and player-manager Kenny Dalglish, winning 11 league titles, 19 domestic cups and 7 European trophies. Over in Manchester, opportunities for United fans to goad their northwest rivals were few and far between. Yet celebrations were aplenty in 1977 after their 2-1 win over Liverpool in the FA Cup final, and, in so doing, denying their northwest rivals a continental treble. Another couple of FA Cup wins in the 80s weren't enough for United to claim superiority over their Merseyside rivals. The ferocity of the rivalry remained as ever, evident in Norman Whiteside's recollection. "I did exactly what the supporters dreamed themselves of doing in my position. I kicked lumps out of Liverpool. I became their representative on the pitch, and they've never forgotten it." Away from the pitch, Manchester's post-punk scene, led by the Smiths and Joy Division, and reputation as the nation's new party city, coined Madchester, with the Haçienda nightclub playing resident to bands like the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses, saw it leap into the box seat as the premier cultural hub of the North. Further resentment of United would continue to percolate over the 1980s in Liverpool, with fans angry that, despite Liverpool's constant successes on the pitch, media attention continued to be focused on their underperforming Manc counterparts, leading to the derisory nickname of United as the Glams. On the pitch, the pendulum would soon swing back towards the Red Devils as well, thanks to a certain Scot whose primary goal was simple: to knock Liverpool right off their effing perch. In 1986, Manchester United appointed a new manager, Alex Ferguson, who had just achieved almost unthinkable feats with Aberdeen, both domestically and in Europe. However, it would take a few years for Ferguson's vision to take shape, and indeed, had it not been for a goal scored by Mark Robins in an FA Cup third-round tie with Nottingham Forest, Alex Ferguson may have been relieved from his post in 1990, and United could have missed out on their era-defining dominance that was to follow. In 1993, Manchester United won their first league title in 26 years, the first of 13 Premier League titles under Ferguson. The emergence of stars like Eric Cantona, Roy Keane and prominent members of the class of '92 made United a force both domestically and in Europe. In contrast, the Spice Boys era in the 1990s was a frustrating time for Liverpool fans, as the team grew more famous for its flashy lifestyle and off-field antics than for winning trophies. Players like Steve McManaman, Robbie Fowler and Jamie Redknapp displayed undoubted ability, but gained a reputation for embracing a celebrity lifestyle, which often overshadowed their performances on the pitch. Their problematic image reached its peak during the 1996 FA Cup final, where they infamously wore cream-coloured Armani suits, only to lose 1-0 to Manchester United in a lacklustre performance. Despite their talent, the Spice Boys failed to live up to Liverpool's legacy, with the team often seen as undisciplined and lacking focus, leaving a sense of underachievement during this period. Over in Manchester, under authoritarian manager Alex Ferguson, United served as the dominant force in England, a footballing juggernaut whose successes in the 90s culminated in the treble in 1999, winning the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Champions League. Liverpool themselves would go on to win a treble of sorts in 2001 under Gerard Houllier, winning the League Cup, FA Cup and UEFA Cup. Whilst United would continue to dominate English football in the noughties, Liverpool won their 5th European Cup in 2005 in one of the greatest finals ever played, dubbed the Miracle of Istanbul. The rivalry between the sides was as fraught as ever throughout the Barclays era. United hated Liverpool and Liverpool hated United. Jamie Carragher once said, "Let's get this clear. I want United to lose every time they play. I'm pleased when they lose. I'm sure United fans feel exactly the same about Liverpool, and I wouldn't change that." This sentiment was echoed across the Northwest by Wayne Rooney, who is quoted as saying, "I grew up an Everton fan, my whole family are Everton fans, and I grew up hating Liverpool, and that hasn't changed." 2009 was a year where Liverpool came close to toppling their local rivals. With Liverpool topping the table, Fergie managed to get in the head of Rafa Benítez in a fashion similar to his mind games with Newcastle manager Kevin Keegan in 1996, which led to the Liverpool manager's infamous facts rant, outlining purported favouritism towards Manchester United by referees, the media, and beyond. Although later that season, Liverpool would beat United 4-1 at Old Trafford, Ferguson would be victorious once more, leading United towards another Premier League title. But in 2013, the beating heart of Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson, would finally retire from management, signalling the end of their spell of dominance in English football, with the blue half of the city taking their place as Manchester's top dogs. Later that decade, Liverpool, who had gone through a period of relative indifference, would prove resurgent under Jürgen Klopp, who built a formidable squad with the likes of Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane and Virgil van Dijk. Liverpool would go on to lift their first Premier League title in 2020, following their Champions League win in 2019. In recent years, while United have become somewhat of a banter club and Liverpool keep jousting with City for the Premier League title, the rivalry between Manchester United and Liverpool is as strong as ever. Forevermore, both clubs will strongly claim one of their own as the king of English football, and every time these two teams meet, you can bet your bottom dollar the atmosphere will be as ferocious as the last. For this is more than an on-pitch rivalry. The intense animosity between the sides is one with deep historical roots between the two cities, a battle of industry, culture, identity, and local pride. This is the rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester United. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like, comment, and share if you enjoyed this one, and stick around for the next video on the Football Documentary channel.